Now picture this. It's your first time running a project. You're 18 years old and you've got two experienced carpenters who are gonna show you the ropes on how to run a project, a multi-million-dollar project with over 20 people working underneath you. There's only one problem, or I guess two problems. One of them got their wives kidnapped and the other one got arrested for drug dealing. Now that leaves you alone, 18 years old, running a multi-million-dollar project with 20 plus people who are all older than you, looking to you to make this building happen. That is actually a true story of the first time I was a lead on a project. So with that aside, what's up guys? My name is Jared Kaufman. I'm a framer. I'm 23 years old right now. I've been in the industry since I was 14, although really I've been around it a lot longer than that. It's my dad's business, so I've been around it all the time. There's pictures of me as a baby in a skid steer. But I've been running crews for about 5 years now, with varying success. Some projects going really well, some projects going not so well, but nonetheless, I continue to learn more every single day and every year that I'm in this industry. And there's plenty of people that are preaching the praises of values of working in trades as a young person, but in all honesty, I just wanted to make a video talking about the hardest parts about working in the trades as a young person. Now really the first challenge that I want to address, especially coming from me as a young person, is a lack of respect due to age. Now believe me, there's a lot of people in this industry that have pride much older than their actual experience, and they really have way too much of an ego than they should. And in all honesty, I'm one of those people and I struggle with that. I feel like I've struggled less with that recently than I have in the past. It's definitely something I'm working on though. But I'll just talk about that a little bit. So the first project that I was a lead on, I was 18 years old. Almost everybody on site that I was in charge of was older than me. That really led to some unique challenges because the sort of natural like leadership qualities, whether it might be like, oh, like that guy just like, he looks the toughest or he looks the most experienced, all these things, like I didn't necessarily have that. But what I did have was I had the blueprints and I had more or less the skills to be able to get the answers that these guys needed from the blueprints. And even being a leader at such a young age is unique in itself, but even just being young in the trades in general is its own challenge. I mean, it's like every old guy in the industry just looks at us like we're, I don't know, it's almost like they don't want us to be in the industry. They're speaking poorly about us, saying that we're not half the carpenters that they used to be, this generation is doomed if we're what they have to show for it, all these sort of things. But in all honesty, the best thing that I've found that actually combats this and helps with it is, one, you never just meet ego with ego. If someone is saying like, hey, you're not good enough, you're not as good as me, the proper response to that, if you're trying to remedy the situation, is not to just say, well, that's not true, yes I am, nuh-uh. No, the proper thing is honestly, keep your mouth shut and just prove them wrong. If you don't prove them wrong, / if you can't prove them wrong, well then it's a good thing you didn't say anything because then you would look like an idiot. But in all honesty, if they are wrong, it's much better for them to realize that on their own than it is for you to have to yell at them and get in a pissing match about it. Especially being a young leader, which I still am to this day, I've found whenever someone new comes on site, I don't just immediately put down my foot to show my authority. I actually just like put my head down and work, and I make it clear to them like, okay, that guy knows what he's doing and that guy has the answers. And in all honesty, I feel incredibly respected by the guys we have on site. It also doesn't hurt that I'm super respectful to all the guys as well. Ultimately, respect is a two-way street, which is really why I wouldn't recommend just spouting off fighting words. So the next challenge to keep in mind, being young in the trades, is the physical challenge of it. Now, there's a reason they call it manual labor, because the amount of lifting, carrying things, walking, you're literally just on your feet all day. There's a reason that people who work in construction are willing to spend $200-300 on the pair of boots on their feet all day long, and it's because the amount of walking that you're doing is incredible. Let alone if you're a framer, you've got a 12-pound tool belt strapped on there, you're carrying a 10-pound nail gun, a 12-pound saw, all this stuff, that adds up. That is a toll on your health, that's a toll on your body, and really that is something to be considered. Now, in contrary to that, I will say that the industry is definitely different than it used to be. I still joke around with my guys. I say, lift with your ego, not with your back, which I think is hilarious, but people don't usually laugh at it. But anyways, another thing that has changed a lot in the industry is we're using a lot more machinery than guys were back in the day. We just bought a crane, that little like self-erecting tower crane thing we got. It's pretty awesome. I'm way geeked out about it. But the reality is, when it comes to lifting high volumes and lots of weight, 90% of the time we're like, hey, let's just use the crane. We've got a hook in the sky that can pick it up and move it anywhere. Or a lot of framers use forklifts, stuff like that. I will say, if you're a young person looking to get into the trades, I would seriously consider finding out if the people you want to work for have/use machinery. Because the reality is the amount of literal tons of labor saved from heavy machinery as opposed to being carried on our backs is monumental. And I'm probably literally adding years to my career by using heavy machinery. And yes, it's a little bit more of a cost, but there's also a labor savings as well. So it really is something to be considered. That's something that some certain old dogs are hesitant to get into, but it really, really, really has completely changed the industry, and it also has changed the longevity and what our life can still look like 20, 30 years down the line doing manual labor. And all that to be said, there's still lots of physical labor and strain on our bodies that's done even not on that large of scale. So really, really, really taking care of yourself is important. And the reality is we're not getting out of bed to go sit in a chair all day and look at a screen. We're getting out of bed to go work in sometimes sub-zero temperatures for 8+ hours, still doing the physically demanding things that we're doing. You need to be in shape for that. Working in construction is like being a firefighter. Like, you know you're going into this dangerous situation that's going to be physically demanding. So put yourself in good shape. Like, eat good stuff, have good healthy habits, try to exercise. Like, honestly, I will tell you this, I used to have back pain a lot, like before I was even 20 years old. And the second I started going to the gym consistently, which I had never done in my life before that, immediately all of my back pain went away. And the reality was, like, by using your body and strengthening it in an ideal lifting situation, you know, when you're lifting a barbell and you're able to do it with perfect form, you're a lot less likely to damage your body than when you're lifting a stack of studs and you're not quite able to get on the right angles. You kind of have to lift with your lower back and it's not the best. Strengthening yourself in the ideal situations will help prepare your body for the less than ideal situations. So I actually can't stress enough that exercise and like physical conditioning is actually super beneficial for this particular challenge. Now here's probably the biggest one out of them all. People will ask me like, oh, how did I learn to frame so well at such a young age? Like, oh, did you go to school for that? Here's the deal. At least in Colorado, there's no education that will get you to the level of knowledge that I have, even as young as I am. It's a combination of reading books and forums online, DMing people on Instagram. Believe it or not, I've learned a lot from that. Asking my dad questions. I'm super lucky to have been born into the construction business. I'm super fortunate for that. If anyone here is in that same circumstance, I'm glad that my dad didn't push it on me to go into construction. He always said if I wanted to, I could, but there was no pressure. He also told me like, hey, but just so you know, if you do choose construction, you're gonna have a really unfair advantage because you're gonna be ahead of everyone else because of what I'm able to teach you. And that is so real. If your dad or mom or whatever is in construction and you're thinking about going into it, but you're not totally sure, I will say the advantage that they give you is astronomical. And I would say it's at least worth a shot because there's no other way to learn this industry other than quite like on-the-job training. Now the same goes, let's say you're not a super self-driven person who's seeking to educate themselves all the time, you're probably not going to succeed very well in construction. The reality is there's not that many resources as far as building your abilities and your skills in construction, especially if you're not looking for them. People be like, oh, like what are the prerequisites to become a framer? And the reality is it's like, are you sober and can you drive? Like that's pretty much it. And sometimes that's not even it. So really, there's no class that you can take that you'll come out the back end and be, okay, now I'm a good carpenter. And again, I'm not saying there's not resources that do exist. Like I said, I learned so much from YouTube channels, from Instagram, from old articles, forums, from my dad, from pretty much any time I had an opportunity to learn. It's not because there was so many of those opportunities, it's because there was so few of those opportunities that I knew every single one needed to be cherished. Now, kind of segueing off of that into the next challenge is the pay. Now, a lot of blue collar people, you'll see us say like, oh yeah, the money's so good, like I'm making money. The reality is like at my age, at 23 years old, I'm married, I've got a wife and a baby and one more baby on the way, and I provide for all of it. And we're doing just fine. We're doing great. We've got a house. But all that to be said, not every 23-year-old in the trades that I know is in the same circumstance. It's also worth mentioning that when you start in the trades, you're not just gonna make a buttload of money right off the bat. Because again, like I said, there's no prerequisites that can truly prepare you for the job. I don't remember who or where I heard this, but I thought it was explained very well. You can go to college for 4 years to get a degree to prepare you for the job. But in construction, you need to work the job for 4 years to learn how to do the job. And that's really kind of accurate as far as it is. Like, you're gonna show up, you're gonna be the bottom of the totem pole, you're gonna get paid like you're the bottom of the totem pole, but then by the time you start to figure things out and you know what you're doing, now you're more considered like a professional in that industry. So I would recommend, if you are looking into getting started in the trades, don't view the first few years as the job, view the first few years as the education. And the reality is, if you're getting paid not that amazing for 4 years of education, everybody else is going into debt for those 4 years of education. So at least take pride in the fact that you are there to learn and you're getting paid for it in the meantime. I will also say that if you prioritize it and view it as a way to learn, you'll probably get more out of it every single day than someone who doesn't view it that way. Now, another kind of unique challenge to construction, and not all companies, but at least some, and certainly ours, most construction businesses and contractors are small businesses. And most small businesses aren't looking at things like benefits. So that is really something to consider. We're talking about, like, we're covering our own health insurance, we're covering dental, we're covering whatever, all that stuff, our retirement, all that stuff is on us. Now, that can be a benefit depending on how you look at it, because the reality is a corporate job is considering that as a part of your pay, so they're deducting it out of your salary. So for us, it might be like, oh, I just get all that money straight cash, and then if I don't feel like thinking about my future, I don't have to. But the reality is you do need to be responsible for your future, but also the reality is that all falls on you. No one has your back as far as that goes. So that is definitely something to consider as far as if you're looking for an easy coast through life job, the trades is not that. Now, another thing that I get a lot of messages from guys about is talking about how they think our crew is so cool and easygoing, and they get to see the vibe of what a day at work is like with us when they watch our crew work on my videos. And they're just like, that is not what my crew is like. My crew works like, we call them screamers. Like, there's a bunch of screamers, old guys that hate their lives and hate their wives, and they live for the Modelos, and they just screamers. Like I said, they're not happy, they're not encouraging. It's just a bring you down work environment. And that is unfortunately the reality of some crews. That's also the reality of some corporate jobs. That's not exclusive to the trades. I will say I'm really, really proud that that is absolutely not the vibe that we have on our crew. It feels like a team, and it feels like a brotherhood. My sister works on the crew too, so brotherhood, but we say she's one of the boys. She's more one of the boys than some of the boys are, actually. But all that to say, we have taken a lot of pride in building that environment, but I also will say, if you're joining a crew that's not ours, that environment is not going to be guaranteed. And if that's something you really value, then I would recommend you look really hard for it. But I'll also say, if that is a rare thing, it's probably the case that they're pretty full, because people are already looking for that. So keep that in mind as well. It's also worth mentioning, if you find yourself feeling that way and you wish it was different, you could always just start something else. Get a bunch of buddies together and start your own contracting business. Another challenge of the job, and I will say this is kind of a pro at the same time, depending on how you look at it. If you're a glass half full, glass half empty kind of person, the commuting. Now, some contractors are like, oh, I only work within 20 minutes of my house and I won't drive any further than that. If you live in a scenario where you can do that, more power to you. That's amazing. I'm stoked that you can do that. We can't do that. So right now, the house that we're building, I don't think it's gonna be released for probably a couple months, because I've got so much footage I gotta edit and put out. But I'm driving like an hour and 20 minutes each way every day, and that is taxing, but I've found ways to make it advantageous in that I get 2.5 hours of podcast time every single day, which I'm able to use to build me mentally, knowledge and wisdom, and really just keep myself motivated and like I'm growing, even if I'm just wasting time on the highway, quote unquote. But another advantage to it, even though it's kind of a disadvantage, is we get to see the state. We get to see all over the place. No matter what city in the state we go to, we've got a lunch spot that we know that's great. It's the best spot there. And that's pretty cool. And especially in Colorado, we have got such beautiful landscapes. We get to travel and see just some really awesome spots, let alone build some awesome spots. But again, that's taxing on yourself mentally. That's a lot of time, 2.5 hours a day, and it's not always like that. Our house before this was 15 minutes from my house, but that's not the way it goes all the time. But again, it's also a lot of wear on your vehicle. That's the thing, is like your car is gonna get used and abused if you're working in construction. I recommend everybody gets a beater truck. Even me, I don't have a beater truck, but it's still a beater truck. It's just a really expensive beater truck, which was kind of a mistake on my end. But that's where we're at. Now, one of the last challenges that I'll mention is, for me, my job is I build a house. So when I show up to the job site the first day, There's no house there, which means whether it's rain, sun, snow, whatever, there's no shelter there. So I'm working in whatever the weather conditions are. And the reality is, unfortunately, by the time we do have a shelter, that means I'm done. So then I gotta move on to the next hole in the dirt, and then I start building the next house. Now again, that can be considered a downside and an upside. Upside is, even in the middle of winter, I somehow managed to maintain a tan, which is kind of cool. Also a downside though, wear your sunscreen. But it also means that when it's dumping snow and it's 10 degrees outside and the crew decided they want to power through it, well, I'm a part of the crew and I got to do that too. Now, some guys will try to avoid working in bad weather and take time off. For us in Colorado, we get enough of it that we just decide to power through it because we would miss too much volume and opportunities for work that it wouldn't be worth it, with some exceptions. If the storm is super bad, then we stay in. Now, I think the last challenge that I'll probably mention is sort of just the social stigma behind it. Showing up to a party of people you've never met before and they ask what you do for work, you're like, oh, I work in construction. And most people are kind of like, oh, that's cool, you know, and it's just like, we have a different view of it. We're like, to me, watching a framer set trusses, standing on walls, doing all this stuff is like watching a superhero. To a stranger who's never seen that, that doesn't matter to them. Their experience and their interactions with construction workers is someone flipping the slow stop sign. Don't get me wrong, total respect for that job, but it's not exactly glamorous and it's not exactly the coolest thing you've ever seen. So naturally, when you tell people you work in construction, they're probably not going to be all that impressed. That's also just kind of is what it is. Ultimately, if people have a negative opinion of people who do work manual labor jobs, that falls on them. But again, similar to gaining respect from people inside the job, I would say the same thing applies to people outside the job. You don't gotta fight them on it, just prove them wrong. Like, you don't gotta like flex all this stuff and like, oh, well, I make this much money and all this stuff. When I tell people that I work in construction, it's not coming from like, oh yeah, I work in construction. It's like, oh, I love my job. I work in construction. I build some of the nicest houses in Colorado. You know, the classic memes or whatever. I don't know if people who aren't in construction get these memes or if it's just me because I work in construction, but like the memes of like, oh, driving down there and you got a blue collar dad and he's like, oh, I built that and I built that and I built that. Like, that's real. Like, I've been in it long enough that I'm now experiencing that. Like, insane houses, multi-million-dollar houses off the highway, all this stuff. All that to be said is like, so many people that I've talked to, even if they don't like have a ton of respect for construction, every single one of them is jealous of how much I love my job. Because the reality is like, my job is insanely hard. It's probably in the top 50 hardest jobs in the United States, maybe. I don't know, I'm guessing. We'll see. I'll put up a screenshot of the results. It's an insanely demanding job, and the reality is like, I miss it when I go on vacation. Not as much as I miss my wife while I'm at work, but I miss it. And there's a fulfillment in creating something and building something and adding a physical structure and physical value to society in a very, very tangible way that is just so fulfilling. And getting to do it with a team of amazing, hardworking dudes that can have a good time while doing it is just exhilarating. It's absolutely amazing. And the reality is, in the same way that you can see my passion in it right now as I'm talking, people will see that in a conversation. And even if they don't think it's the coolest thing ever that you work in construction, people are gonna be jealous of the fact that you actually really enjoy it. And I will also say this, if you don't really enjoy it, don't do it. The worst people I've worked with in construction all didn't love it. And the best people I've worked with in construction loved it. So it's not to say that it's a job that everyone who does it would love, but there's capacity to love it. And if you do, chase the heck out of it because it will give back everything you put into it and more, and it will fulfill you for the rest of your life. It will build your character. It will turn you into a better person for the rest of your life if you let it. It's gonna shape you in a way, but if it's cutting against the grain, if you're not letting it go with it and it doesn't work with your character and who you are as a person, don't fight it, just get out of it. There's been guys I've worked with and younger guys, older guys, whatever, where I've just seen it that it just wasn't for them and they were just kind of pushing through it and fighting through it and they felt like they were stuck. They didn't vibe as well with the crew and they weren't as productive and all this stuff and it just didn't work no matter how hard we tried. Don't force it. Like, honestly, the biggest advice I can give to someone working in construction is like, if you don't love it, don't do it. There's so much value in just pursuing what you're passionate about and what you love in life. That is the number one thing that you should be prioritizing and that you should be chasing after. It's clear, I assume, how obsessed I am with framing, considering that it's all I talk about and I post a video about it like every week. I do it because I love it and because it fills me up as a person and because it's just a part of who I am, and I think it's a part of how I was created. Now, all that to say, I think that's probably enough of my ranting. I feel like I've probably filled up the better part of 20 minutes at least, but I want to keep this going. Like I said, there's not a ton of resources available for young people in the trades, especially not for framing specifically. There's enough to scratch the itch a little bit, but not enough to fully fill everything that we need. So I would say this: if you have experience in the trades or you have wisdom that you learned from being in the trades, please drop it in the comments, because I'm hoping this will be sort of a safe haven for young people getting in the trades or thinking about getting in the trades and they need advice. Flood the comments with that. If you have questions, if you're inexperienced or experienced, whatever, any kind of question you have, maybe I'll drop some if I can think of some. Let's let this be a spot where people can learn and grow together. Ultimately, that's why I started this channel, was I gained so much from other creators that I just wanted to put something out there, whether it was good or bad. And the reality is, for the first few years, it was pretty bad. I just want to keep that going. That's like my core value, is I want to just contribute back to the industry and to the people who are passionate about it. But I really do hope that you guys found this beneficial and encouraging or inspiring, or maybe you were discouraged and like, yep, construction's not for me. If that's the case, that's a success. That was part of my goal. If it's not for you, then don't waste your time. But if it was for you and you like this kind of stuff, stick around, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.